Today, we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's literally holding our entire modern world together. It's all around you, but you probably never see it. We're talking about welding, the art of stitching with fire. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see just how much it secretly shapes everything, from the car you drive to the city's skyline itself.
I mean, just look at this. It's an incredible scene, right? This is modern manufacturing at its peak. It's this beautiful high-tech ballet of robots and sparks, all working together to build the cars we rely on every single day. And this isn't just one factory. This is happening on a massive global scale.
But before you get that fiery robot dance, a car starts out as, well, a huge collection of individual parts. Just check out this diagram. You've got pillars, rails, panels, all sorts of reinforcements. We're talking dozens and dozens of separate pieces of metal.
Which brings up a pretty major puzzle, doesn't it? How do all these separate little pieces of metal become one solid, safe, and totally reliable vehicle? You know, one that you can trust with your life when you're flying down the highway.
And this is not a small-scale puzzle we're talking about. To give you a sense of the sheer scale of this challenge, get this. At its peak back in 2017, the world produced 97.4 million automobiles. That is millions upon millions of these complex metal puzzles being solved year after year.
This chart really lays it out. It shows global car production over 2 decades, and the trend is just crystal clear. Yeah, there are dips here and there, but the demand is consistently enormous. This creates this massive, ongoing need for a method to join all those metal parts together that's incredibly fast, super strong, and totally reliable.
So, the answer to our puzzle? It lies in a whole category of manufacturing called joining processes. This is basically the art and science of how we put things together.
So the official definition of joining is, the process of attaching one component to another to create an assembly. It sounds a little dry, but think about it. It's the fundamental step that turns a pile of useless parts into a functional product.
And a modern car is a total masterpiece of different joining methods. If you look at this diagram, you can see you've got adhesives, which are great for big surface areas like a windshield. You've got fasteners, nuts and bolts, for parts that might need to be taken off later. But look at the core structure, the spot-welded body, the welded pipes, for those permanent, high-strength joints that literally fuse two pieces of metal into one solid part. Welding is the absolute, irreplaceable star of the show.
Okay, so let's zoom in a bit. Let's really nail down welding's specific role in the grand scheme of how everything around us is made.
All right, this chart looks a little complicated, I know, but just follow me here. At the very top, you have all manufacturing processes. They branch out into things like forming, where you bend metal, or casting, where you pour it. But if we follow that path over to the right, under finishing and assembly, there it is. Right alongside fastening and bonding, you find welding. It's one of the final and most crucial steps.
And this amazing technology isn't just for cars. Not at all. It is the literal backbone of so many things we absolutely rely on. The steel skeletons of skyscrapers, those massive industrial pipelines that carry our energy and water, and yeah, of course, vehicle bodies.
And here's what I think is just so fascinating. Welding can scale from a single artisan, a craftsperson meticulously joining two parts by hand with incredible skill, all the way up to a fully automated factory line where an army of robots performs thousands of welds with absolute perfect precision. It really is both a craft and a science.
So how does it actually work? I mean, how do you use fire to literally fuse metal together? Let's get into the science behind all those sparks. And don't worry, we're going to keep it simple.
At its very core, welding is simply melting materials together so they can coalesce. That's a fancy word for merge or combine. You're using intense heat, which usually comes from either a chemical reaction or a powerful electrical current. The key thing to remember is you're creating a new, unified piece of metal where two separate pieces used to be. To really get our heads around this, let's look at one of the classic methods, oxy-fuel gas welding. This process uses a super hot and very controlled flame. That flame is created by mixing a fuel gas, like acetylene, with pure oxygen, and it gets hot enough to melt the edges of the metal. Now, it actually happens in 2 stages. In step 1, you have the primary reaction, which happens right in the inner core of the flame. The acetylene gas reacts with oxygen, and it creates carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and a big burst of heat. But that's only about 1/3 of the total energy. The real power, the secret sauce, comes in step 2. Those byproducts from the first reaction, the carbon monoxide and hydrogen, they then react with more oxygen from the air all around the flame.
This secondary combustion releases a massive amount of additional heat. We're talking about 2/3 of the total energy, and that's what makes the flame hot enough to melt solid steel. Pretty clever, right?
Okay, so now that we've seen the science behind the sparks, why is this process so fundamental to our lives? Let's connect it all back to the world around us, because we are quite literally welded into our modern world.
I mean, think about it. Every single time you walk into a big building, an office, a hospital, an apartment complex, you are trusting the strength of thousands upon thousands of these welded joints. The entire steel frame, the skeleton holding it all up against gravity and wind, it's all held together by this process.
And it's not just about brute strength either. It's also about incredible precision. A good weld creates a permanent bond that is clean, exact, and unbelievably strong. It's this perfect fusion of function and, in its own industrial way, a kind of artistry.
So from the car you drive to work to the buildings you walk into every day, our modern world is literally held together by these hidden seams of fire and force. After seeing how it all comes together, what will you see differently now?